you, everyone, and a special thank you to Delegate Karen Lewis-Young. If you aren't aware, or you've been under a rock, Delegate Lewis-Young is running for State Senate, and in all seriousness, it has been the most invigorating, life-changing learning experience watching how things operate in Annapolis. One of the delegates, Delegate Kerr, who's here tonight, actually said one day, "You don't know what you don't know until you tried it and experienced it." And it is a huge, huge learning curve. But I can tell you this, that when I'm in Annapolis, I am always amazed at the amount of staff that turn to Delegate Lewis-Young for advice. They turn to her for assistance. They turn to her for good ideas, or because they need to get a bill through and they can't figure out how to get it through. She is so well respected in Annapolis, and she is so well respected in our community for the work that she's done. I really just wanted to thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much. I don't like these things. Okay, this has got to go. All right. I want to thank all of you, obviously, for coming out here tonight. This means the world to me, but I want to send a very special thank you to my campaign team who's here tonight, who worked so hard to make all of this come together. Let's hear it for the team. The amazing beer from Monocacy Brewing Company. The amazing food from traditional, authentic Mexican food truck. The amazing coffee and hot cocoa and pastries from Dublin Roasters. Our incredible DJ, dapper DJ over here. And our unsung hero, Teresa. Takes care of every event that not only I do, but also that the Frederick Center does, and is such an incredible advocate for our community, and never gets the recognition that she deserves. So. And then finally, I want to say, in the back, we have the amazing Frederick County Health Department and Love for Lachlan here tonight, offering free COVID and flu shots for anybody who wants them. Sean is telling you all about the fact is, folks, public health is a conversation that we all need to be having in our communities every single day. Public health is not just a shot. It is not just a flu season. It is a state of mind for a community that we should be investing in, and we should be supporting, and we should be fighting for every day. And I'm so proud to say that every event that I put together, I guarantee all of you, the Frederick County Health Department and Love for Lachlan will be there to provide those vaccines as a public health service. So, why are we here tonight? Well, one, I was supposed to say, why are we here out in the cold? But thankfully, we all made the smart decision not to be in the cold tonight. And we brought it inside, thankfully. But for one, I'm here to ask for your support. Because I want to be your next representative from District 3 in the Maryland House of Delegates. And I believe I'm ready to do that. And I want your support for that. So that's part one. And it's very important part. But the other reason is because I want to chat with all of you about why you're here. I look around the room and I'm very lucky because I don't think there's a face in this room I don't know. And that I haven't worked with, and that I haven't spent time with. And I took some time while thinking about this, and I wrote a few stories down that kind of popped in my head about some of the people that were here or here in spirit tonight that weren't able to make it. Susie Miller, the former executive director of the Frederick Arts Council. I bumped into Susie in 2012 at the wrap-up meeting for the Frederick Festival of the Arts. I went up to Susie after the meeting and I said, I really want to help. I love the festival. What can I do to help? And she goes, well, we need a new director for the festival next year. Do you think you can do it? I said, no, but I sure can act like I can. So I took on the Frederick Festival of the Arts, and for the next 3 years, I was the director of the Frederick Festival of the Arts. And I've stuck with that group and made sure to be there as a line of support for that organization ever since, because it meant the world to me that they put their trust and faith in me. Brian Walker, I also bumped into in 2012 at the inaugural Frederick Pride Festival, which was at the time just called a picnic in a park. And I said to Brian, I said, I love this idea. I said, I want to get more involved. And I can proudly say that 10 years later, I am now the executive director of the Frederick Center, but I've also, yes, and I've been working on Frederick Pride's committee since 2012, and never once have I left that Pride committee alone, because the work that it does is so critical to our community, not just the LGBTQ plus community, but the entire Frederick County community. So I've been honored to be there. Another person that I want to mention is in the room tonight, so I'm excited. In 2004, when John Kerry was running for president, this random woman calls me one day and says, I want you to come phone bank. And I said, I've never done a presidential campaign before. I don't really know if I'm ready for that. She's like, it's fine, just come on. So I come in, we go to the Frederick County Teachers Association, and I meet Myrna Whitworth. That's right, everybody. I pulled out the big guns for the stories. I met Myrna, and every week for the rest of the election, we phone banked together in 2004. And every election thereafter, she called, and I answered. Because Myrna and my relationship became close friends because of that work, and because of our ability to recognize the need and the support that we needed to provide the community, to reach out and make sure people knew about the important issues facing our country. And because of that, Myrna is now on my campaign team. I get to claim her on my campaign team now, and I'm so lucky to have her. And then finally, Brooke DeSantis is in the back. Busy at work, I'm sure, as she always is, and she doesn't even know that I'm about to say her name. So, Brooke I've known for 15 years. You were way back when. And a few months ago, she reaches out and she says, I want to have coffee with you. I need to talk to you about this thing. I said, sure. So we sit down and we have coffee, and I'm like, it's been forever since we've seen each other. And she says, Kris, I have been working on this project that means a lot to me. My son died of the flu at a very young age, and when I recognized the gap in service, I began offering free flu vaccines in our community to anyone who wants one. At every public event, I go anywhere where people are to make sure they are educated and get their flu vaccine. And I said, that is quite possibly the most incredible thing I've ever heard. And Brooke deserves all the world of credit for the work that she's done. But my only answer to that was, what can I do to support you? What can I do to help? And she said, Kris, you just need to get the word out. So I made a point of putting her in this conversation tonight because I want you all to recognize the incredible work that she's doing and her organization is doing, and make sure you go out and support it, and support the health department, and support SHPA Frederick County, and support the Frederick Center. We're a community effort, and we're a community-based event. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, get your hair done, and your sponsors at New York, Hair Salon, 695-766. Off the rails. Okay. There's two parts to a relationship, folks. In my view of my life. There's the listening and learning from folks. There's the engaging with them and getting to know their lives. And then there's the action part. And for this conversation, I want to focus in on the action part of our lives and what we do with the information that we ascertain. Frederick is quite an amazing place to live and to grow up. And it is beautiful, it has wonderful people, it has people who are community-minded, willing to support one another, and it deserves so much credit for all the things that it has built. It also has challenges which need to be addressed. And we can't ignore those challenges, and there's a lot of good people in this community who are trying very hard to make sure those issues come forward. Children who have food and housing insecurity is a big one. People with skyrocketing housing costs, unable to afford living here in Frederick. Unmanageable job markets where they can't find a job that pays a livable wage. The worst mental health crisis in generations is occurring as we speak, coming out of this pandemic. And a disenfranchised community of marginalized folks, Black, Indigenous, people of color, LGBTQ people, who are screaming to be heard and to be understood and to be listened to and not lectured at. Yep. The fact is, I bring a unique set of qualities to this position that I will be able to tackle those challenges. I listen, I engage with folks, I find out more. I don't just accept the basic conversation. And then I take that information and I try to put it into action. When somebody comes to me and says that there has been an injustice, we try to find resolution and justice in that moment. And it is so important. So it is so important because the work that I've been doing for years with the Frederick Center and with the Frederick Festival of the Arts and with SHIP and with other organizations and even in my job at New York, New York, I experienced those needs every single day and did everything I could to bring forward resolution and solutions for folks. And that's what I want to do as your next state delegate. I believe I can take those values, those things I've learned, take them to Annapolis, and increase the impact of those skills to be able to benefit every single person in Frederick. So, one question that's been asked of me multiple times is why? Like, why do you want to do all of this? More than one person has asked me, why on earth do you want to run for office? In what has been a very toxic political climate of late. And, it's funny because I actually have the reason. It's a letter, and it sounds really silly, but bear with me, it's my last story, folks, I promise. We'll get back to the beer and the food in a moment. This letter is 20 years old next month. In January. It'll be 20 years old. I wrote this letter to my best friend in high school, my senior year. And this letter goes on and on with run-on sentences and so much teenage angst. Even the cast of Dawson's Creek would be like, oh my God, calm down, kid. You gotta bring it down a notch. But buried inside of pages of this letter, I come out to my best friend as gay. And it was a tough thing to write as a senior. And the reason I have the letter is because I never gave it to her. The sense of powerlessness that you feel, the sadness and anger and angst because you can't be who you are, comes out every single day with things like this. A letter that I can't even hand to somebody, nevertheless say the words out loud. It took me 2 more years to come out of the closet after this letter was written. And I remember thinking to myself, after I came out, how dehumanizing it is to think to yourself that there are systems in place that tell you to not say what's in this letter. That my school system would not have been there to support me when I came out. That my friends and colleagues, or my student classmates, could potentially alienate me and diminish who I am as a person. All because of 2 words. And so, when I hear a story of a mother with 2 kids who's struggling to make ends meet, or somebody that's having to work 2 or 3 or 4 jobs just to survive, when I hear about a story of people living with developmental disabilities or folks caring for folks with developmental disabilities, when I hear stories of people who simply want basic health care to be able to be healthy and not have to make that decision between that and paying their rent that month, when I hear those stories, my mind immediately goes back to this letter, because I remember what it feels like to be dehumanized. And so, when I go to Annapolis, this is my promise. I remember this letter when I talk to folks. And I promise you that when I'm down there, I will advocate every day. I will fight every single day. And every time any of you come to me, I will be there to listen, engage, and act, and help. Now is the time, folks, for us to come together and say that there is a better way, that we can do it together as a community. I'm ready for this position. I have been working on it my entire life. I am ready to take the reins of this role, and I'm looking for all of you to come in and support me. And as I promised my campaign staff, there would be one curse word in this whole thing. So let's get out there and kick some ass, folks.